Ladies and gentlemen, Trump keeps winning as Senate Democrats keep losing. The Democratic Party keeps losing. Democracy apparently is still up in smoke and being torn apart. They got exactly what they wanted. They have Biden, our beloved President Biden in the White House. They have a Democratic Senate. They have a Democratic House. No Medicare for all, which we can talk about. I would love to debate Sam Seder. I've offered to debate him. I might just do it every segment on this channel. So I'm not going to call up so he can pass the phone to Ethan of H3 or whatever. I want to debate on this channel anytime he'd like. We could talk about Medicare for all. We could talk about President Trump being a great president and why 74 million Americans or more will vote for him again if and hopefully when he runs 4 years from now. We could talk about how Trump never worked with Russia. How the whole thing was complete nonsense and fabricated. Well, I can read with Seder the ODNI report and the Steele dossier because he was very passionate with Michael Tracy. So let's discuss. Let's have a debate. Don't run away, Mr. Seder. I keep asking. I guess that I've won now. I still haven't received an email at contactgoodman78@gmail.com. I have a fraction of subs. A fraction of the sub count you have. That was your argument against Crowder, right? Even though you were not scheduled to debate him, but we can actually schedule a debate. And believe me, I respect your intellect. It's profound, but I will not give the debate to anyone else. I would love to discuss a whole bunch of topics with you, a whole bunch of things. I'd ask you, would you ever not vote Democrat? Are all your ideas always tied to the Democratic Party no matter what? Is your support of AOC only tied to propping up the Democratic Party to funnel left-leaning voters back into voting Democrat? Just like CNN, but, on a channel. So anyway, I would love to debate. It's contactgoodman78@gmail.com. But ladies and gentlemen, Democrats lost. See, They kept running on legislation to help non-white voters or non-white citizens, climate change. What was their other issues? Oh, curbing the Second Amendment. What is their signature piece of legislation? Nothing. What? Nothing nothing. They gave the left nothing. So the left is just completely embroiled in this racket and grift, where they're promised the world, UBI, Medicare for all, Green New Deal legislation, a whole bunch of other different pieces of legislation and policies, and they're given nothing. And they have wonderful pundits who always shepherd everyone back into, well, it's Biden, he wrote the crime bill, but he's still better than Trump. And he's not better than Trump. Trump was a much better president, even in his first 100 days. We can debate that. But you have 16 times capacity in the facilities that AOC likened to a time period she should never talk about again. I wrote a Jerusalem Post op-ed. We can talk about my Jerusalem Post op-ed. I can debate Sam Seder on his views pertaining to Israel, a whole bunch of things. We have the same ethnic background. So, but here, Senate Republicans block Democratic voting bill. This is BBC News. The huge bill, which sought to make it easier for Americans to vote, ended up at a 50-50 along party lines. So what Republicans are doing in terms of recounts and in terms of legislation, they're not making it harder to vote. Their viewpoint is that they're ensuring integrity, that the vote count is not just a vote count that is influenced by pandemic-related reforms. In their minds, they want to ensure that, for example, documentation isn't missing from drop boxes, just like in Georgia, or that just like in Georgia. This is according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and other publications. An independent observer said, well, it was messy and sloppy, but there was no widespread misconduct. So they don't want a messy and sloppy election. Stacey Abrams has, for well over a year, talked about all the problems that existed in Georgia and said that Brian Kemp was illegitimate. He was not a legitimate governor. And then, of course, when President Biden won Georgia, everything was fine. Nothing, there was no problem at all. So Democrats, when they lose, it's Trump is an illegitimate president. He worked with Russia, which he never did. There's not a shred of evidence. Would love to debate Sam Seder on that. Like I said, we could read the ODNI report together, and he could talk about how the high to moderate confidence assessment was good enough to begin an investigation, or the fact that Clinton purchased the DNC, or the fact that people within the Justice Department were a part of, or Peter Strzok's text messages to the lovely Lisa Page. It's fine, we could do that, because he believes, like wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrats, that Trump worked with Russia. There's not a shred of evidence, and even the Mueller probe said the evidence was insufficient. Then we could talk about Trump's contacts, and how those contacts did not apparently break any laws, and the evidence was insufficient to accuse anyone in a court of law of a campaign finance violation or any collusion. But anyway, they didn't get the voting bill that they wanted, not to make it easier, but from the Republican perspective, or from Trump's perspective, if you have pandemic-related reforms in a time where you don't have the pandemic, or you don't have these concerns and science and safety, doesn't force people to just mail in everything and have the post office overrun with ballots. From Trump's perspective, that was a huge deal. Then you have media ignoring any concern from Republicans, and then championing and elevating every concern against the recount in Arizona. So when the tables are turned, it's like when Democrats lose, whether it's Stacey Abrams or Hillary Clinton, it's always, oh my God, there was foul play. Either the Russians or the election was, marred with inaccuracies. When Democrats win, it's, oh my God, how dare you even think? How dare you even think of questioning the sanctity of our victory? By the way, hit subscribe to this channel right now. Hit subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel. This is why the mentality that vote blue no matter who, the Democrats are always better. This is why, from a left-leaning perspective, which I am no longer on the left, that mentality is completely counterproductive, because you're never going to put, if you really wanted to implement a Medicare for all or vote for a Medicare for all bill, you would want to force the vote, or you would want to see how much support you have within the Democratic Party already. If you don't have that much support or enough support, then there are ways to push the Democratic Party to perhaps adopt your policies if you're on the left or far left. One way is to start a third party, or the Green Party, or to state, I will not vote Democrat unless they abide by or push certain policies. I would love to debate Sam Seder on that. Even though I'm not on the left, I started out, my whole life, I was a lifelong Democrat. And I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. And the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. Sanders obviously doesn't have a spine when it comes to politics. He was cheated. He said nothing. But people like Seder and others will always, even the far lefties, even the socialists and the edgy left-leaning pundits, they will always, no matter what, say that Democrats are the lesser of two evils and always vote Democrat. And they will never do anything to perhaps undermine Democratic chances, even if it means pushing the Democratic Party towards policies like Medicare for all, because it's not rocket science. The grift and racket is always voting Democrat and just accepting anything. You could easily force either the DNC or Pelosi or any of the top Democrats. You could force them to try to implement a Medicare for all bill by saying, hey, there's a third party, there's the Green Party, or there's a Medicare for all party, or whatever. You're going to lose every election until you push this policy. Then you have a Democratic Party that actually abides by its promises. It's not rocket science, very simple. The rebuttal would be, oh my God, look at the damage Republicans can do. Republicans, Democrats are always going to complain. You look at all of the Hollywood Twitter accounts. I don't have Twitter. I haven't had Twitter for 3 years. You look at all the left-leaning accounts, oh, the democracy is at stake, even, oh my god, democracy is imperiled. It's always, their sensibilities are always tied to a definition, a warped definition of democracy. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now.